B'Shem Hashem Na'aseh v'Natzliach. We know this week's parsha is Pinchas. And I wanted to talk about a new subject altogether, and that is the daughters of Tzlafkhan. Of course, they were from the same tribe as Pinchas, because Pinchas also had the blood of Yosef in him, but there were 5 girls of a wonderful gentleman by the name of Tzlafkhan, and they came and demanded from Moses that they should be able to enter the land of Israel and own property there. And Moses went to God, and God said, yes, that is the Torah law, that if a husband and wife, if a father has no boys, then his inheritance and the amount of land that each tribe and each person from each tribe was destined to get in the land of Israel would go to his daughters instead of his sons. And there's such important and beautiful Rashis, because it's so unfortunate we live in a society that thinks the Torah, God forbid, is male chauvinistic. Actually, it's to the contrary. The bedrock of Judaism is the woman. All the holiness, all the blessing of the house is because of the woman. Any honest and sincere and prudent man knows that. And it's for this reason that I wanted to talk about the daughters of Tzlafkhan. First of all, Rashi brings such a beautiful thing that right before these daughters come and demand their property and their land rights in Israel, before it talks about the Jews that passed away in, there was a census, there was a counting, and it says that many of the Jews died in the desert. Rashi says, what does that have to do with the episode of the daughters of Tzlafkhan? It says that such a thing, that women have this extraordinary purity and holiness to them, that a lot of people don't know this. The 2 fundamental and worst sins the Jews did in the Sinai desert, the women had no part in. Which means the sin of the golden calf, it was the Erev Rav, it was the men fooling around with the Egyptian women that had converted to Judaism. The Jewish women, the daughters of Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah, and Yocheved and Miriam, they had no part in it. And more important than that, the sin of we're in the 3 weeks now that very, very important that we don't listen to music and we don't buy new clothing and important stuff like houses and cars, because we're mourning the destruction of the temple. The nucleus and the beginning of that was the night of Tisha B'Av, that they cried and they didn't want to enter the land of Israel, and they accepted gossip about the Holy Land. The women did not accept the gossip. And Rashi says something so important, that the men did not have trust in God, but the women did not believe the 10 spies' evil report, and they wanted to enter the land of Israel. And that's why the women loved the land of Israel so much that they came to Moses, these 5 very righteous women, and it wasn't because they were after the money. They were after the honey of Israel. They loved it because of the sweetness. It's the land where any Jew knows, like a magnet, when we touch the kotel, when we touch the land, our connection to God and our spiritual potential is 1,000,000 times higher and greater. And where did the daughters of Tzlafkhan, where was the seed that was planted in their spiritual DNA to love the land of Israel? So there's another beautiful Rashi that says that the daughters of Tzlafkhan were following their great ancestor Joseph, because Joseph, at the end of the first book of the Torah, makes the Jews swear that under no circumstances would he be buried in Egypt. He must be buried in the land of Israel, because Joseph loved the land of Israel so much. And Moses himself, Moshe Ra'aya Mehimna, was the person that personally went after and got his body and casket and made sure that it would go to the land of Israel. So just as a final cherry on the top, we said that we should never underestimate how special and holy and pure the Jewish women are, because let's not forget Mashiach, more importantly, the bedrock of Mashiach is from Tamar and Ruth. And of course, all the Torah that we have nowadays is because of the women. The Torah that is taught today in the Talmudic sense is from Rabbi Akiva. And even the Zohar, written by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, is a student of Rabbi Akiva. And Rabbi Akiva, who sent him to yeshiva? His wife, Rachel, which 24 years she was willing to be separated from him because she had this overwhelming love of Torah. So we see that the women of the nation of Israel are the bedrock and the foundation. Their unlimited love for the land is very clearly seen in this week's Parsha. And their unlimited love of Torah is giving birth to Rabbi Akiva. And the cherry on top that I wanted to talk about is this idea that the love for the land these 5 women had, was because of Yosef. And Rav Dessler writes such an important thing that we should never underestimate it. Our actions and our spiritual growth, not only do we get the reward in the next world, but in this world, it affects our children in such a magnificent way. And the greatest investment is working on ourselves, becoming more spiritually refined and knowledgeable in Torah, and break our bad habits and do unlimited mitzvahs. Because not only do we become better, it becomes a spiritual heritage. It's part of the spiritual DNA of our entire descendants. And that's what the Torah is teaching us, that this nucleus that Yosef was so particular, that he made the nation of Israel swear to him that he should go to the land of Israel, it again blossomed so beautifully in his great-great-grandchildren, the 5 daughters of Tzlafkhan, that they also got the love of Israel. So may Hashem help us to realize that the greatest investment is working on ourselves to make ourselves much greater spiritual giants, because both in the next world our reward will be eternal, but even in this world we can affect and spiritually elevate unlimited and unpredictably so many wonderful generations that will come from the root and the seed of our spiritual growth. Don't forget to subscribe and have a wonderful Shabbat.